eat. What is the rationale, Professor Phil, behind having homegrown food in the sustainable city?
Well, it's sort of like if you watch that movie, The Martian, where he had to grow his own food because he had nothing left. So what we do here in the UAE and in the desert is try and grow our own food to make us as sustainable as possible. So we spoke a bit earlier about the food miles associated with importing food to this region because not much food is really grown here. So we try and grow as much food as we can in the sustainable city to make the transportation of bringing the food all the way here much less, and therefore we reduce the amount of energy that's used and the amount of fossil fuels that's consumed. But there is a bit of energy that still is needed to grow food here in the desert, and we try and minimize that as much as possible by growing it inside of a greenhouse. So the greenhouse in this part of the world is actually to keep things cool, so you can grow it through the summertime. So in the colder climates, a greenhouse is used to keep things warm, but it's the opposite here in the desert climate. We do that by these fans and pads that are going around us. So you'll hear us trying to shout because the fans and the pads are actually quite loud. So these large fans that you just saw are drawing the air through this falling water here. So these pads have falling water, and again, similar to the cooling towers that we saw before, it drops out which is called the latent heat. And when it does that, about a certain amount of the heat gets captured in the water and it's taken away. So the air that comes through is actually cooler than the air that's on the other side by about 15 degrees Celsius. So that extends the amount of time that we can grow food here. And if you look around, we're growing all different sorts of things: tomatoes, chives, basil, mustard, thyme, oregano. And in the future, when more residents move in, we will distribute that food through a food box program and a Friday farmers market.
Fantastic. And just one more question. All the water that we see here, how much water does it take every day in order to grow all these plants?
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of water to grow food here, and that's one of the limiting factors that we have in the desert. So by growing it inside a greenhouse, that really helps. The largest amount of water that is being used is in the cooling pads, and those cooling pads are using the recycled gray water. So all the water from the villas goes into two waste streams, either black water or gray water. The gray water is from the hand washing basins in the bathrooms and the washing machine. That's cleaned in a gray water treatment plant here and is put into a series of lakes and streams. So when you go outside the greenhouse, you'll see a beautiful lake and a beautiful streams flowing through, and that's all full of recycled gray water. The dome uses around 3 cubic meters of water a day for irrigation. So that's 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters of area.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Professor Phil.
You're welcome.